Hello, fellow preppers. 'Tis I, the Rumpled One. It's Wednesday, June 27th, 2012. I was thinking about something the other day. What can I live without? Or what can you live without in terms of prepping? As you may have seen, I made a video about Walden, Thoreau's Walden's Pond, and about he lived, very frugally, very simply. I also get a daily or semi-daily newsletter from some guys called The Minimalist, where they also have the approach where you get rid of all this stuff so you can have more time, more freedom to pursue the things that really matter to you. In fact, I just read one of their emails today. Kind of a Zen thing. So, on the other hand, I watch other people's channels on YouTube, and they're just talking about equipment. I subscribe to a couple of, I guess, one of those Groupon type things. This one called Gear Hog that constantly sends out, get gear cheap or, discount. And then there's Overstock.com and Cheaper Than Dirt and a few others. And they're just blasting you, basically saying, reach down, get your wallet out, send us your money. How many knives? I mean, I look at my knife box, there's all these knives I've collected. Some I bought, some I got free, some I've been given, but there's just how many knives do I need? I've shown you, what I use on a regular recurring basis. Just a couple, and just the whole idea that you go out and you buy a $100 or $200 knife, right? This really good knife, for when stuff hits the fan. It's one of those things where it's just like, if you take a time out and you sit back and you go, let's be real. I mean, do you think having that knife is now you're going to be able to do all these things you see in the movies like Rambo? I mean, it's like, give me a break. If you're not using that knife on a regular recurring basis, when the stuff hits the fan, you're probably going to be so scared, so worried, so full of fear, you wouldn't be able to use it anyway. I mean, I'm not trying to put anybody down or anything, but there's just some things you have to face. Practice makes perfect. And beware the man with one gun because he practices with it. It's nice to have an assortment of weapons, but if you have all these different weapons, especially if they have different calibers, well, that might be a good thing because on the one hand, maybe you've got something, say a 223, but all that's available is a 308. Well, it might have been nice if you had, one of each. On the other hand, if you're prepped and you've got, ammo, which eventually will run out, it might be a lot cheaper and more economical to have, a couple of guns, but you have, tens of thousands of rounds of ammo. It's just something to consider, something to think about, All these things, what can you, do with that? I mean, like in my kitchen, you saw I've restored a couple of cast iron skillets. Well, I think I've probably got a half dozen skillets, 2 is probably more than enough. I should probably just put the other ones up for a yard sale and take that money and, buy something else that I might need, or, buy more food, more rice and beans. So, what can you live without? I mean, or do you really have to have it? These guys with all these fancy packs and these different component systems that you can clip onto the packs. I mean, if you're not walking every day or working out at the gym lifting weights, you're not going to get too far with 50 pounds strapped to your back. That's just the way it is. So, you know, one guy said that, you know, I take my prepping channel isn't like the others, because the others, you know, they show what they have and they show them doing stuff, and me, I more say, you know, you got to think about things. I guess I'm more of the prepper philosopher or something, I guess is what they were alluding to. But, you know, I guess I take the stance that, you know, there's a lot of people that can show you how to do things. There's millions of video and how to do it, and there's no real reason for me to duplicate that effort. I'd kind of rather, you know, look at the big picture and you know, say, you know, these are the things to consider. Here's a way of considering them. Not that I'm right and somebody else is wrong, but, you know, this is how I consider things. This is how I do things. Maybe you can learn from it. Maybe you don't. If you do, use it. If you don't, chuck it. That's okay. It doesn't hurt my feelings if you don't, you know, do as I'm doing, because it's your decision. And that's one of the things that I think is most important to communicate to fellow preppers, is that you have to be able to figure things out on your own. Because once again, you know, if you get in that situation where it's just you and you got to figure things out, that's when you find out what you're made of. You know, there might not be an internet to look something up on. There might not be a cell phone that you can pick up and call. You just might be you. Think about being on some, you know, survivor island. You know, just you. You don't even have a knife. What are you going to do? Will you be able to, you know, fashion some tools with stones and sticks and whatever you can scrounge up? You know, how are you going to survive? You'll be able to hunt, fish, forage, garden, figure those things out on your own. So, once again, what can you live without? What do you really need? I mean, just, you know, strip it down to the bare bones. I guess one of the other things that triggered this was there's guys showing their 72-hour bug-out bags. I mean, if you're in the city, there's going to be a lot of stuff available. So what is it that you really need? I mean, you need to be able to breathe. So in case there was smoke or something, you might want to consider a gas mask. Because without air, you're going to be gone in 3 or 4 minutes. Next thing to consider is you got to be able to regulate your body temperature, keep it within a certain range. Or in about 3 or 4 hours, you're going to die. If it's too cold or too hot, if you can't regulate your temperature, you're going to die. You know, next on the list is water. You can't go too long without water. So you might want to have a supply of your own water and a way to filter water, make sure and purify water if you don't have enough to get you through. And last but not least is you're going to need food. You can go about 3 or 4 weeks without food, but nobody wants to do that. I mean, on a fast, if you've never fasted, try fasting for 72 hours so you can feel what your body goes through, feel what your mind goes through and all those anxieties, and then you'll know what you're going to be facing. Because if you haven't gone through it, it's better to go through it now before stuff hits the fan than wait till stuff hits the fan. So those are things I think you should consider as a prepper. So what can you do without? Strip that pack down. Just put in what you really need, and the rest, yeah, it'd be nice, but let's just be real. Let's be sensible. You don't have to run out and buy everything that somebody, you know, endorses or does a review on or looks cool. Because, you know, I admit, sometimes I see a knife and I feel that, ooh, that'd be cool. It's like, I don't need another knife. I really don't. Unless they come out with something that's just really good that, wow, that's a really good knife. You know, I've got everything from the little teeny 2-inch, 1-inch pocket knives, you know, to machetes. And, you know, just about everything in between. You know, a good knife, yeah, you should have a good knife, but can you do without it? Can you live without it? Probably you could. Gun, on the other hand, as my friend likes to call him, is a persuader. Something you need for defense. I mean, if you only had one thing, if you could only have one thing, and stuff's hitting the fan, I think you might want that gun. Because you could persuade people to leave you alone, or you could persuade people to share what they have. Or if you're really, you know, out for it, you could take what they have. Not that I'm condoning that, but when things get tough, things are tough. And you make tough decisions. You make decisions that you're not proud of. You know, if you actually talk to somebody that's lived through it, like when I spoke with the Bosnia woman, or you can see that one guy on the SHTF school, Selco. He talks about, you know, they did some things they're not proud of and they don't even really want to talk about them. But they're alive, they survived. Okay, this is probably getting into that long-winded, boring zone now. So, what can you do without? And remember, if you fail to prepare today, you're preparing to fail tomorrow.